Sometimes, as the poet declared, the world is too much with us. Events pile up, injustices occur, and we wonder where we can turn. We who see the presence of God in our lives have a place we can go when questions confound us and hope evades us. By gathering here, we hear the voice of God, and our troubles can melt away. Therefore, let us worship God with the confidence of those who put their trust only in God. The first reading is taken from the Gospel according to Luke, the 7th chapter, verses 1 through 10. After Jesus had ended his sayings in the hearing of the people, he entered Capernaum. Now a centurion had a slave who was dear to him, who was sick and at the point of death. When he heard of Jesus, he sent to him elders of the Jews, asking him to come to heal his slave. And when they came to Jesus, they sought him earnestly, saying, "He is worthy to have you do this for him, for he loves our nation, and he built us our synagogue." And Jesus went with them. When he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying to him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore, I did not presume to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man set under authority, with soldiers under me, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my slave, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he marveled at him, and turned and said to the multitude that followed him, "I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." And when those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the slave well. Amen. Let us all pray. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, for giving us life, and for giving it to us in such abundance. We marvel at the productivity of the earth itself and how it provides most of us with more food than we need or perhaps should even consume. We're continually struck by the intelligence and enterprise of people both famous and relatively unknown, and how they have contributed to the abundance of our lives. We see nature going through its cycles, granting us yet many other examples of how blessed our lives are. When we consider all of it, we conclude it is possible only because thou art God, and that thou art also good. Praise be to thee for thy goodness. We bow before thee, asking also for thy forgiveness for all the ways we have failed to do thy will, or have hurt others, or have damaged ourselves and our own physical or spiritual well-being. We confess that sometimes we become too engrossed in our own affairs to focus on the larger plan for us and for the whole world. Grant us a proper sense of perspective, loving God, lest we become too involved in seeking our own good and too little involved in promoting thy kingdom on earth. We pray for people who have had a potential brush with death, but who shall live long and recall the story with a newly discovered detachment and equanimity. We pray also for those who have had a brush with death and shall soon succumb to it, knowing that its approach is imminent. We remember those who are in the midst of the greatest personal crisis they may ever have experienced, and who are terrified of where it may be leading them. Uphold those who struggle with addictions, or constant pain, or grief that does not seem to abate, or anger which will not release its grip on them. Give to all of us many echoes of thy presence with us, so that, come what may, we may endure whatever we must in order fully to receive thy grace. We ask these things in Jesus' name, now praying as he taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. The second reading is taken from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, the 7th chapter, verses 13 through 20. In this section of his letter, Paul is writing about how it is that he does things he does not intend to do, and where it is that sin originates. So he writes this: Did that which is good then bring death to me? By no means. It was sin working death in me through what is good, in order that sin may be shown to be sin, and through the commandment might become sinful beyond measure. We know that the Lord is spiritual, that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now, if I do what I do not want, I agree that the law is good. So then it is no longer I who do it, but sin which dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells within me, that is, in my flesh. I can will what is right, but I cannot do it. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do. Now if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I that do it, but sin, which dwells within me. May the Lord bless to us these readings from His holy word, and to His name be the glory and the praise. Amen. The text for the sermon is from Paul's letter to the Romans, the 7th chapter, verse 15, where Paul says, I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. The theme for the sermon this morning is the human condition. There's a term which has long been used to describe the complexity of human life, although its meaning is never crystal clear in any situation. It's a kind of catch-all phrase. It consists of just 3 words. The human condition. When we speak of the human condition, we are confronted by a whole host of issues and challenges. Childhood, youth, adulthood, old age, good times, bad times, glad times, sad times, sickness, wealth, health, poverty, success, failure, strength, weakness. George Floyd emerged from a convenience store in Minneapolis, Minnesota, shortly to be detained by 4 policemen, then to die beneath the ever-pressing knee of one of them. That, and what followed from it, is an example of the human condition for both Mr. Floyd and those 4 policemen. Yet from that tragedy may come another major impetus toward improving police standards and practices, especially toward black men. That would be a positive addition to the human condition. A child of ordinary parents becomes a medical genius and discovers a cure for a major childhood illness. A young boy with a bad stutter becomes President of the United States. A wrong turn down a wrong street ends in disaster, but a chance invitation changes life for someone for the better, so much so that that invitation will never be forgotten. All these things illustrate the human condition. Our lives are not determined for us. They unfold in their own way and at their own pace. After Jesus had preached the Sermon on the Mount, according to Luke's Gospel, he came down from the mountain and went into the village of Capernaum, which is on the northern shore of the Lake of the Galilee. A Roman army officer heard that Jesus was there. He had befriended many of the local Jews whom it was his duty to pacify. The centurion had a slave who, according to Luke, was dear to him, and he was very ill. He requested that some of the elders of the Capernaum community ask Jesus to come to heal his slave, while the worried soldier sat by his bedside. The human condition was seen in the illness of the slave, the desperation of the soldier, the willingness of the elders to make the request, and the ability of Jesus to provide the miracle. Sometimes the human condition is unpredictably complex. Before Jesus arrived at the centurion's house, the Romans sent some friends with a message for Jesus. It said, "You don't need to bother coming all the way to my home, Jesus. I, like you, am a man under authority, with soldiers under my command. I say to one, go, and he goes. To another, come, and he comes. To my slave, do this, and he does it. Say the word, Jesus, and I believe that you can cure my beloved slave." The slave was dying and could not save himself, nor could the centurion. The officer could order people to do things, and they would do them, but he could not order the health to be restored to the slave who was dear to him, and that would not be the case for most masters and slaves. Jesus said to those who witnessed this, "Not even in Israel have I found such faith." By the time the soldier's friends returned to his home, the servant had been healed of his infirmity. The human condition shines through in every single aspect of that story. Life is a roller coaster ride, a journey on a bumpy road, although more often than not it is smooth. We tend to remember the bumps much more keenly than the smooth parts, while a few people are blessed to see only clear sailing and no rough seas, to mix our metaphors. Marilyn Robinson is a novelist and essayist who grew up in Iowa. She's written 4 novels about a fictional small town in Iowa named Gilead. She is so outstanding, I think that the Nobel Prize people should give her the Nobel Prize for Literature. She's already won a Pulitzer Prize. In these 4 books, she bounces back and forth in time, and the reader has to keep the chronology and the characters in mind in order to derive the greatest benefit from her wise and wonderful Calvinistic observation about all of us. Parts of all of us are in all of her characters. Gilead was the first of the Iowan novels. Her latest book, as the other 3 has only one word, and it is Jack. Jack Ames Boughton is the ne'er-do-well son of the Presbyterian parson in Gilead, the Reverend John Boughton. Jack bounces in and out of all 4 stories, but he's the main character in the latest saga, which is set in St. Louis in the 1940s. Jack is a restless, rootless white man who falls in love with Della, a cultured black woman who is also a PK, a preacher's kid. However, she is much more grounded than Jack. He has the indelicacy to fall in love with Della decades before the civil rights movement really got going. So it was a very risky test for both of these people. Marilyn Robinson writes of Jack, "What a scoundrel he was before he made a vocation of harmlessness." When Jack meets with Della's minister in her large black church in St. Louis, he tells Pastor Hutchins as much of his story as he dared, but as little as he must in order to be understood. After listening for a while, the minister says, "Maybe you're looking for someone to tell you to go home and spend a little time with your father. You look like you could use a little forgiving." We all have people back there whom we disappointed or hurt or neglected. It's an inevitable corollary of the human condition. We want to make amends if we can, but sometimes we can't, and we wonder whether they or God can ever forgive us. The wise black pastor tells Jack, if the Lord thinks you need punishing, you can trust him to see to it. He knows where to find you. If he's showing you a little grace in the meantime, he probably won't mind if you enjoy it. And that's also a factor in the human condition. God or others may want to help us, but we balk at being helped. Either we think we're not worth it, or we think we don't need it. Too often, we turn out to be our own worst enemies. Writing a review of Jack in last October's Atlantic, Jordan Kistner said, "If Jack, the novel, feels somehow less than a world and more like a morality tale or thought experiment than Robinson's other novels, that's because its central character is so ill-tethered in the world. The human condition can produce a Jack Boughton or a Francis of Assisi, a Lucretia Borgia, or a Mother Teresa. None of us is of one piece. We are all a mixture of motives and inclinations and intentions. The human condition is such that it will never coalesce in agreement on some of the biggest people or events in human history. Can anyone imagine unanimity of assessment even for George Washington, or Abraham Lincoln, or TR, FDR, HST, LBJ, RN, RR, or DJT, or Barack Hussein Obama. How about Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Hillary Clinton, Susan Collins, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, of whom no one had heard a word until 4 or 5 months ago? Or what about the New Deal, the Fair Deal, the Great Society, or mainline Protestants, or white evangelicals, popes John the 23rd, John Paul II, or Francis the First? What about Billy Sunday, or Billy Graham, Jerry Falwell, Senior or Junior, or Pat Robertson? What about King David, or the Old Testament prophets, Jesus of Nazareth, or Saul of Tarsus? How do all of them fit into the human condition? And how are we objectively and fairly to assess all these people and subjects? Here is what may be the best illustration of the human condition in the current news. President Biden has decided to remove all American troops from Afghanistan except those who are guarding the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. To do that is fraught with peril. But not to do it is fraught with other kinds of peril. Many powers outside Afghanistan have tried for 3 millennia to pacify it, and none has ever succeeded. Tribalism and chaos are too endemic to that unsettled part of an unsettled world. The most cogent all-time example of the human condition is war. War is always perceived simultaneously, but seldom by the same people, as either glorious or terrible. Normally, most of us see it as one way or the other, but we do so through very different sets of mind or eyes. War has always been common throughout the passage of time, except in magical places like Switzerland or Costa Rica. And they are the exception more because of their geography than because of their sociology or their politics. If you want to study the human condition in its highest magnificence and in its most fiendish debauchery, study war. But remember this: war truly is hell. The term nature versus nurture is very much like the human condition. We know what it implies, sort of, but we don't ever know precisely what it means. David Linden is a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins University. He recently wrote a book called Unique: The New Science of Human Individuality. He doesn't like the term nature versus nurture. He thinks it's too misleading about who we are and who we turn out to be. Instead, he prefers specifically to consider many issues that make us who we are: height, weight, food preferences, personality styles, gender, and racial identity, sexual orientation, when and where we were born, who our parents were, and so on and so on. Professor Linden took a massive survey on these subjects among a wide variety of people. He discovered that the people who understand these matters the best, which from our standpoint in this sermon means those who best comprehend the human condition, are college-educated mothers with more than one child. He feels they are the best equipped to understand the complexity of individual human beings and of all human beings together, or what the rest of us would call nature and nurture. Unite all of these factors and it results in a singularly complex species. The Apostle Paul was a careful student of human nature, especially as it appeared to him to be revealed in his own nature. The letter to the Romans is the most theological of all his epistles, and the 7th chapter of Romans is at the heart of his perception of who he saw himself to be. I also suspect he deduced that everyone else is somewhat like him in his self-observations. Paul had a thing about the religious law. He had spent the first half of his life in slavish devotion to it, and the second half of his life trying to escape from that devotion. He wrote, "I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. So then it is no longer I that do it, but sin which dwells within me." Do you think Paul was trying to make excuses for his own behavior? I don't believe so. He was saying that only the grace of God could save him from his dilemma. His dilemma was a flawed human nature, or to describe it in other words, the human condition. Every one of us is a mixture of facets, good and bad, wise and foolish, self-centered and other-centered, faithful and faithless, predictable and unpredictable. In the last 3 sermons, we talked about guns, abortion, and our attitude toward LGBTQs. In everything, the human condition is operative. In everything that we do, in what we do that's right and what is wrong. The God who created us knows that about us. He also knows that we need to know it about ourselves. Therefore, we can say with Shakespeare in Measure for Measure that we are all a wretched soul, bruised with adversity. But we can also say with Hamlet, who didn't always feel this way, what a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a God. There is no one who ever understood the human condition better than William Shakespeare. What a genius! What a knave! What a superior person! What a magnificently flawed creature! At the age of everyone here who is listening to this sermon today, I think we need to admit we are who we're going to be. But what are we going to be? Who do we want to be? Do we want to exhibit the best of the human condition to everyone around us? Or do we want to concentrate on ourselves, living out the rest of our lives with as much self-satisfaction and self-aggrandizement as possible? Will we undergird the human condition, or will we undermine it? If we seem not to be the species God intended us to be because of the human condition, we always have the potential to become that species. That is, after all, half of the human condition. Thank God. Thank God. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his peace, now and evermore. Amen.